The realities of living with a disability and the importance of caregivers is the topic of this Melanie Minute. And more to the point, Melanie highlights the needs of caregivers themselves. Whether paid personal support workers or unpaid family members and friends, caregiving entails so many facets of consideration, not to mention how caregiving can often take an enormous toll on the caregiver. And as Melanie points out in this candid Melanie Minute, without the appropriate recognition and support for the caregivers in our society, those who tend to the daily needs of someone with a disability or someone aging at home can lead to caregiver burnout. Continue listening to Taking Care of Our Caregivers and be part of the growing dialogue around the importance of caregiving.
Good day and welcome to another Melanie Minute. When you hear the term caregiver, what do you think of? Now, for many people, we may think it's not relevant to me, but a caregiver is a family member or somebody that we pay that takes care of somebody who's sick, the elderly, or someone who has a disability. They help out in many different ways. It could be something as simple as helping with basic care needs, and that could be toileting, it could be showering, it could be helping create and prepare meals, feeding, dressing, all of the above. It also can be a lot more, could be companionship, some light housekeeping, and ensuring that the caregiver and the individual they're serving have what they need, going to doctor's appointments, banking. So it's a big job for a caregiver. And usually there's different sides. So today I thought we'd dive a little deeper into both sides of caregiving. So as an individual with a disability or a senior or somebody who's not well that receives caregiving, they have this individual coming in to their home to assist them with different tasks as mentioned. But they also have to create the sense of trust in this caregiver that they're going to do what's best for for their interest of the individual that they're serving. Now, if it's a family member, we would hope that is a given because they're done with love and affection. But if it's somebody that you're hiring, you have to be very, very careful about who you're allowing into your home, what training they have, and if they are qualified and feel comfortable. Because we know that caregivers usually have training, especially if they're a PSW or somebody that has gone through some education, but also that they are the right fit for the individual that they're serving because it is a very personal connection. And also with individuals with disabilities, you're depending so much on this caregiver, whether it's making sure you've got your medications, the food on time, you're being able to have showered and feel like you're dressed for the day. So timing is everything. And caregivers, depending on if they're a family member or somebody that's paid, may not work on the same schedule. So making sure you find the right fit for a caregiver. A lot of times we'll find that individuals with disabilities may contact community agencies to assist with these caregivers. So different agencies will have PSWs or caregivers that they've hired and trained that will go to somebody's home. So if that's the situation, the government only allows so many hours for each individual. So they've got a big workload for the caregivers, but the individuals receiving the services may have to be waiting and have to work the schedules around the availability of the caregivers. It is a big job for the individual that receives caregiving to navigate the system because they have to make sure the schedules mesh, and if somebody's not available, then that means they are out of luck for service. But on the other hand, caregivers, whether again family members or individuals that are being paid, go through a lot as well. And there's something called caregiver burnout. And I thought we'd look a little bit at this side too, because I think a lot of times we, as individuals with disabilities or people that use this service, depend a lot on caregivers. And we think about what we need instead of the caregiver's needs. So I thought today we'd look at this. And this is something that not only as an individual with a disability have I had a caregiver who was my mom at the time after my stroke, but also as working in this industry of serving individuals with disabilities for years, I've heard many individuals with disabilities struggling. But then as the population ages, we have aging parents. And then we take on the caregiving role or navigating the caregiving system for our parents. So there's a lot of sides to this. So as we look at caregivers, let's talk about family members first. So not only are they your family member, I'll use my situation as an example. My mom, she was my mom. She raised me as a child. And then again, at age 21, now she's helping me with toileting, feeding me, dressing me, all those things that she did when I was a child. So this is extra stress. I am the eldest of four girls. So my mom also had my sisters to look after and her husband and the house and all of those things, as well as take care of me. Now, I will be honest, I was very, very demanding after my stroke. I needed a lot of attention. And my mom was exhausted. I could see it in her because she was just very tired, but she was trying to be strong for me. So caregivers have a lot of roles and responsibilities, not only to the individual that they're taking care of, but also just life, their own lives. So they don't have enough personal time for themselves to rest, to take time for themselves. I remember there was times that my mom said, "I just need a break." And it was nothing against me, but it was just sharing her frustrations and stress with her family. So she would have somebody come over and stay with me so she could have a shower or just have a nap. And this is something we may not consider is the impact it has on a caregiver, especially if you're living with the person. It's a 24-hour a day job. It's not like they can turn it off. If the individual needs help, they need to be on call. And again, caregivers that are paid, similarly, as I mentioned, they usually work for an agency and they have multiple clients. So they have to travel back and forth to different clients and meet the different needs. And their schedule is tight and they have a lot. So, as well, they may get burnt out as well. So, what can we look at for caregiver burnout? Because it is real, whether as we age, we're taking care of our spouse or our child if they have a disability or they're sick, or even if it is going to be an aging parent. What resources are available for caregivers? And I don't think this is talked about a lot. As I mentioned, there are many organizations that have respite care, and that's where they can provide caregivers to the families. So sometimes a caregiver that is a family member can get respite care and have somebody come and stay with them for a few hours a week. And that way they can have that shower or that nap or go and do groceries or do whatever they need to do. But again, you have to depend on their timing, their availability, and it's not as much support as you need. So it's about building a network of other resources, other family members, friends, anybody that can help with relieving the individual caregiver to make sure that they have what they need. But also, it's about making sure the caregiver knows it's okay for them to take a break. That yes, they have to be on call in case of emergencies, but they also need to manage their own time and schedule. And there are resources out there. There are organizations that focus on caregivers. They have lots of workshops, support groups for caregivers, people to talk to, and other resources that are available because not a lot of people are talking about what's available for caregivers. I came across an article recently that actually I was shocked at first, but actually, after thinking about it, makes sense. So last year in 2025, there was a survey done and they got some stats and caregivers, so family member caregivers that have been taking care of somebody who's sick or their spouse or their parent that is elderly have had to call 911 for an emergency for that individual that they're caring for. And paramedics have come and basically said, you know what? They haven't hit their head. There's, nothing that's really wrong. However, you look exhausted. Why don't we take them to emerge and you just get some sleep? And this is actually something that's happening is that people are calling emergency so that they can get a break from caregiving. And this is drastic because not only does it impact our emergency rooms, but also it just shows how desperate caregivers are and that perhaps they're not being supported the way they need to. And that's just one example. Another example is that caregivers are at their wits' end and they start to think, I can't do this anymore. And they may have other opportunities, other family members that can step in and support, but and not everybody has money to pay for that private care. So they have to look outside of what else is available, what other resources are. And again, there are a lot of programs that if the individual is healthy enough to go to a day program or go to a program that alleviates some of the stress for a day off for the caregiver. But there's not enough currently for caregivers. So what I've noticed is there are more agencies taking a bigger look in this because as our population ages and as the number of individuals with disabilities increases in Ontario, these needs for caregivers are going to continue to grow. So it's something that we have to keep our mind on. It's nothing against caregivers because they are human beings as well and they need that break. And if the government isn't providing enough supports for individuals with disabilities, seniors, and for caregivers, then we're going to definitely see that this is going to evolve in the coming years. I encourage you, whether you're an individual with disability that has caregivers, to be mindful. Yes, our needs are important, but also make sure that your caregiver has the supports that they need. Perhaps some of the agencies that you work with have resources for caregivers so you can point them in the right direction. If it's your family member, be mindful. Tell them thank you. Tell them you love them and let them have a break. Doesn't mean that your needs are not important because they are. But also, if you are somebody giving care to a family member, a spouse, a parent, know that you're important. Know that what you're doing is very, very special because it takes a special person to be able to provide care for anybody. And again, if you're a caregiver in the professional, thank you for all you do. And please make sure that you do take care of yourselves and look at what supports are available. This is a conversation I think we'll be continuing to have in the future because it is evolving and it is something that maybe it's not talked about enough. So I encourage you to learn more about caregiver resources, what's available in your community. And until next time.
You have been listening to Connect for Life, the podcast. Connect for Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connectforlife.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.